When you're an empath or an intuitive, integrating into the world is no small thing. But one of the best things we can do is actually understand the world that we're integrating into. I was raised in Toronto. I was very empathic, intuitive, spiritual. My parents were teachers, so we had summers off at the cottage up north. We had weekends off. And I was quite free to explore those aspects of who I was. And then when I went away to university, I fell in love with one of my friend's brothers, who was a dairy farmer. And soon I found myself living in the middle of nowhere, on a farm, milking cows, baling hay, driving tractors, having babies. And suddenly, I wasn't allowed to be empathic and intuitive anymore. There were places that I could, like raising my children, or even in communication with, my husband and things like that. But even a lot of that was sometimes lost to sheer exhaustion, sheer survival. Because this is sort of the life we've come out of as a society. We had to work really hard. I'm in Canada right now, and we are a home of landed immigrants. We farmed and mined and logged, and it was really hard work. And these are the generations of people we're coming out of. So this memory of all the hard work and the importance of just keep on keeping on, it still rings in our blood, right? And this is all over the world, whether we struggled with famine or war or real cruelty and pain and the requirement to be very guarded in the world. This is the world we're coming out of. I remember on the farm, it'd be haying season. And I didn't know anything about haying before I got there, but when I got there, I found out very soon that when we were haying, you definitely had no emotions. You weren't sensitive, you weren't anything, because the hay had to get in. We even have a saying, you make hay while the sun shines. Well, on the farm, so hay, if you don't know, hay is a grass that you feed to the cattle over the winter time. And in Canada, that's a long winter, so you have to have a lot of hay. There's only a short period of time that you can cut the hay when it's dry. You cut the hay, it lays in the field, and you need a few days of really good drying weather for that hay to dry. Once it's actually dry, you have to get into the barn as soon as possible. Because if we've had that many drying days, that means it's going to storm. So I'll tell you, as soon as we knew we were going to bale that day, we were going to bale the hay, everything stopped. You literally just became like a robot. It didn't matter whether you were in pain, it didn't matter whether you were injured, you bandaged yourself, you got out to the field, you baled the hay, or you milked the cows, or you fed them, or whatever it is you had to do to get this happening and get that barn full of hay. And it was an amazing thing to really realize that everything had to get shut down. And I really started to understand that these are our ancestors. This is what's rolling through our minds. This is what's rolling through the people around us. And this really helps me. It helps me understand why it's difficult to suddenly be sensitive and be empathic and be intuitive around people and generations that are literally like, that's ridiculous, just suck it up, And I don't want to give you the wrong idea. Haying times were actually some of my fondest memories. The kids on the wagon with their dad, bright blue skies, hawks flying overhead, driving the tractor. And it was actually really nice to pull together like that and get things done. And afterwards, completely collapse with lemonade and, But it really helped me understand the world we live in. It helped me understand why empaths are treated as being soft. On the farm, it doesn't matter what you feel. You have to get the work done. It's actually survival. It's survival of you. It's survival of the cows. It's beyond that. And as hard as the 17 years on the farm were for me, for that reason, probably one of the number one reasons, besides maybe the isolation, it was really helpful. It helped to really ground myself and understand the world that I live in. And to understand, how does my intuition serve that world? How does being empathic help? How does being really spiritual help in that world? Because this is the world we're coming out of. And we are moving into a new world. Things are shifting. Every generation is born and is very different than the last. So things are changing. But in the meantime, it's very important to understand the world all around us right now.